Katherine Heigl recently appeared on The View, and her daughter Nale, who's now 13 years old, was there to support her. The show played a clip from when Nale first went on The View with Katherine in 2012, and you'll never believe what devastating thing Katherine admitted about Nale's childhood. Back then, Nale was really young, and the video actually featured Katherine talking about her adoption. In a very sweet moment, the camera cut to the little child, who, after catching her mom's eye, walked on stage to embrace her, melting all of our hearts. Naturally, Katherine broke down in tears as she relived the moment in the clip. She shared that the 3 days after Nale joined their family at 9 months old, she boarded a flight to Atlanta to begin work. She was a new mother at the time, and she admitted that she had to constantly remind herself that she could do this. This was right after Nale's adoption, and Katherine had to reassure herself that she could handle raising a daughter while she was also leaving for work. Katherine talked about how we've all been convinced that we can have it all, a successful job and a family. She said that it would be wonderful if it was actually possible to have both, but then she got visibly more and more upset as she talked about this. Katherine opened up about how back then Nale had bonded with her husband since she was actually with her, but because of her job commitments, Katherine spent more time with the triplets she was working with on set than with Nale. Naturally, she constantly worried that she lost the chance to connect with her daughter and that Nale wouldn't really care about her. It was honestly pretty heart-wrenching to listen to this story. Katherine was clearly worried that because of her work in Atlanta, she and Nale wouldn't have had much of a connection. So what happened in 2012 on The View was actually really meaningful to her. The moment when Nale ran up to her on set and hugged her was really the first strong moment the two shared, and it meant a lot to Katherine. She realized that they were actually bonded, and looking back at it now, it really made her tear up. It's clear that Katherine's children mean a lot to her. When she was asked what it was like raising her kids, Nale, Adelaide, and Joshua, she said that she appreciated raising her kids and that she was extremely grateful for it. Katherine and her husband, singer Josh Pelly, have been trying to raise their kids out of the public eye. Katherine and Josh first connected while filming Josh's music video, Only You, in 2005. They got married just 2 years later in December 2007 in Park City, Utah, and apparently from the very beginning, they were keen to have children. In the months leading up to their wedding, Josh told people that he always thought he'd be terrified, but he was ready. Josh and Katherine adopted Nale from South Korea in September 2009, and they later adopted their daughter Adelaide in 2012 and had their son Joshua 5 years later in 2017. Katherine said that Josh made Nale feel incredibly at ease, and they grew close pretty quickly. But it was more difficult for Katherine. They talked to their social worker about this, and they were told that this was pretty normal. Apparently, it's common for children to respond to their new mother differently. Still, Katherine found this really difficult because all she wanted to do was be close to her daughter. Luckily, they got there eventually, and nowadays, Katherine counsels adopted mothers not to give up, as the benefits are enormous. Even though Katherine is open about her affection for her family on social media, she still chooses to raise her children outside of Hollywood. When she was asked if she would allow her kids to pursue modeling, which is where Katherine's own career began, she just laughed. Then she added that she wouldn't do what her mother did to her. She shared that her mother schlepped her all over the city because she wouldn't do it on her own. They would take the subway and the train to go for go-sees, auditions, and other things, traveling from one side of the city to the other. Katherine recalled that she liked it despite the fact that she wouldn't want that for her own kid. Katherine also talked about how she always knew she would adopt. 3 years before Katherine was born, her parents adopted her Korean sister Meg, and apparently that's why she always knew that she wanted to adopt from Korea, because she wanted her family to look like the one she came from. And although she and Josh discussed having biological children, they chose to adopt first. Katherine said that she knew that love for a child doesn't necessarily come through DNA. She's aware that this is the kind of question anyone who hasn't dealt with adoption would ask, but it was always pretty obvious to her. Her mom raised both biological and adopted children and always made it clear that it made no difference whatsoever. Katherine shared that while this was all clear to her, Josh had to discover that, and he was apparently incredibly kind and accommodating. Katherine also opened up about what the process of adopting Nale was like. She talked about the moment moment she learned that there was a baby available for adoption, she was working in Atlanta with Ashton Kutcher when they called her, and crazily enough, Josh was also there. Katherine said that the period after that was pretty crazy. They were just so excited and impatient, it was wild. They were told about a baby girl who was born the day before Katherine in November. They also got the news that the baby had a heart condition, but thankfully, they were assured that it had been corrected through surgery. They were told to take the time to consult with their own pediatricians and other medical professionals before making any decisions, but Katherine and Josh had no intention of declining. Crazily enough, Josh's dad is actually a heart surgeon, so Katherine and Josh were able to phone him right away and inform him of the situation. They could get him to examine the records and tell him the truth, but they weren't really doing all of this to decide whether or not they would move forward with the adoption. They knew they were doing it. They just wanted to know what exactly they were dealing with. Luckily, it turned out that Nalé was perfectly healthy and had a healthy heart. They still had to wait for about 4 months before they could hold her in their arms, but it all turned out well. Still, Katherine said that the wait was difficult. She would apparently look at her daughter's photo about 14 times a day. She would also show a photo to a lot of people, even though she knew they were supposed to be kind of discreet about it, but she just couldn't hold in the excitement. It's clear that Katherine and Josh put their family first. That much was clear even just from Katherine's recent appearance on The View. The way she teared up about the old clip was seriously touching, and I think I can speak for everyone when I say we wish them all the best. Anyway, what do you guys think? Did you know that Katherine and Josh adopted their daughters? And what do you make of the touching story of Nalé running up to Katherine in 2012? Let me know in the comments down below.